I can't even pay attention to the conversation because the only thing I hear in my head is, damn, Adrian, you got fat. It's just going around like a negative lullaby. And it was at that point where I just kind of involuntarily, like, you know, when you say something without thinking about it, it was like I thought it and said it simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, I'm about to lose all of this weight. Just watch.
Welcome to the Wits and Weights podcast. I'm your host, Philip Pape, and this twice-a-week podcast is dedicated to helping you achieve physical self-mastery by getting stronger, optimizing your nutrition, and upgrading your body composition. We'll uncover science-backed strategies for movement, metabolism, muscle, and mindset with a skeptical eye on the fitness industry so you can look and feel your absolute best. Let's dive right in. Welcome to another episode of Wits and Weights. Today, we are weaving together some very interesting topics from hypnotherapy to online coaching to the business of podcasts and especially podcast guesting and how any or all of these things can help you accelerate what you do and who you reach. Even though this podcast is mostly about getting strong and eating to fuel your performance, we need to spend some time on the wits side of Wits and Weights to develop our mindset, our emotional fitness, and the tools we can use to grow as individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders at the gym and in life. My guest today has taught me how to bring this show's important life-changing message to an even wider audience by guesting on other podcasts. So we'll dive into that topic. If you own a business, recently started one, or are thinking about it, or even if you have a powerful story you want to share with the world, you want to listen all the way through because his approach is both unique and effective, and that's why I use it myself. Let me introduce my guest today. Adrian Moreno began his career in the health and fitness space while also gaining unparalleled experience with hypnosis and NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming. He established himself as a respected transformation specialist through the power of hypnotherapy. Going against what his mentors taught, Adrian spent his marketing efforts pitching and getting booked on top podcasts and grew that hypnotherapy company to $250,000 in only 12 months. Now he spends his time teaching other coaches, course creators, and content creators how to do the same thing. If he isn't doing that, you can find him writing, reading, or watching The Office. Adrian, man, after that long introduction, which is well-deserved, it's a pleasure to have you on and your incredible energy on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me. Just want to say that was actually a really good introduction. I don't know if you heard me, but I did a little, because like, you said something. I was like, that was clean. So I like that, man. I like it.
Awesome. I impressed the man himself.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, no, the power story, man. It's good stuff. And, you know, speaking of that, like you've got a powerful story, again, what you like to call a power story that people need to hear. And that shaped you into who you are today, right? So tell us how you ended up first in the health and fitness space, then hypnotherapy, and now it sounds completely different, but I know you segued from it into helping coaches and creators grow, and then how all of that informed who you are today.
Yeah, you know, I actually thought it was different until the other day I was writing an email, and the headline of the email said, when a hypnotist and a copywriter walk into a bar. And I'll like go into that a little bit, because it'll all tie together. So in 2014, I'm not going to go year by year, but in 2014, I experienced a heartbreak. Now, this was the high school heartbreak. So the kind of heartbreak where your whole world comes crumbling down, or at least I thought my whole world came crumbling down. And because I thought my world was crumbling down, I felt like it was crumbling down, and I acted like it was crumbling down. So I went from you know, this happy-go-lucky, like if you knew me from middle school to high school, like literally 6th to 8th grade, I got voted class clown of the year every single year. So like I was always this loud kid in terms of wanting to make people laugh all the time. Like that was my thing. I was always trying to make people laugh. And I was just this positive attitude kid. And all of a sudden, when this breakup happened, I just turned really bitter, and I became very bitter, very angry. I was studying to become a fireman at the time. Austin has this Austin Explorers program, and it's, you know, you can be in this, you can kind of train with firemen and kind of do what firemen do. Of course, not going in and actually taking out fires, but as a high school student. So when you graduate, you're positioned pretty highly at a chance of getting into AFD, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was very set on becoming a fireman. After the breakup, I dropped that. Like all my ambitions dropped, and you know, I lost my job, started smoking weed, started selling weed. And to make it all worse, I went from 140 to 243 pounds. So within 4 years, I gained all this weight. And the reason I say that is because it's like, I wrote this again, and I'm always writing emails. I wrote this again in another email, but it's like, sometimes you have to lose yourself to find your way. And whenever I was extremely overweight, it didn't bother me. I knew I was overweight. My mom was commenting on it. And when I'm a mama's boy. So when mama starts commenting on it, you're like, okay, like you getting throw out of hand, right? Yeah. Cause mama don't lie. It just didn't bother me at the time. And so here I was, just literally day in and day out, smoking weed all the time, eating the kitchen up every single day, and not really doing anything with my life because the income I was making enough income. It was just through selling weed. I didn't have a job, but that was like kind of my thing. And then one day, September 19th, 2017, it's like the day everything changed. On this day, I just got done rolling up a blunt, and if you don't know what that is, it's just a cigarillo full of marijuana. And so I got done rolling up a blunt. I told my friend, like, hey, man, come over and come smoke with me. And so he was like, sure. He comes over. And as I'm sitting on the couch waiting for him to come over, I'm watching The Office. I'm pretty sure I was. And then the doorbell rings. All right, cool. I know it's my friend Gilbert. I get up to go to the door, but keep in mind, I don't have a shirt on. This is not to be sexy. This is a very important part of the story. So I didn't have a shirt on. And so as I'm walking by the kitchen table, so as I walk to my front door, picture the front door, and then the kitchen's all right here. So I got to kind of walk by my kitchen table, and my shirt was hanging on the kitchen chair. And this is the shirt I had on earlier. I just took it off and put it on the kitchen chair. And so I stopped, I looked at the kitchen chair, paused, and I said, should I put on my shirt or not? And I made a decision. I changed my life. And that was not to put on the shirt. Because I didn't put on the shirt, I just walked straight to the door, opened the door. Gilbert looked at me up and down like he's never seen me before. We're best friends. At the time we were best friends. Every single day, that was the homie. He was always with each other. We're always with each other. And he looks at me like he's never seen me before and just says, damn, Adrian, you got fat. 5 words changed my life. He said, damn, Adrian, you got fat. And the thing is, yeah, we hung out every day, but I don't think he saw me without a shirt for years. So I think when he saw me without a shirt for the first time, it was like, Adrian, what in the world? And for some reason, I don't know what it is about what he said. Somebody asked me the other day on a podcast interview, like, what do you think it was about what he said that made you want to check? I don't know. All I know was for the first time, I felt the pain of having let myself go. For the first time, I felt the pain of dude, you became a fucking slob. Excuse my language, but that's just how I felt. I was like, dude, you became this slob this is not who you are. And it was at that point where I told my friend, Gilbert, I'm about to lose all of this weight. Just watch. And he didn't believe me. He kind of laughed and was like, yeah, sure, here, hit the blunt. He didn't really believe me. If you knew me at the time, you probably wouldn't have believed me either.
Hold on. Did you react to this in the moment to him, or is this all in hindsight?
Oh, no, yeah. So whenever he said, Adrian, you got fat, my immediate reaction was to, whatever. Kind of just whatever, bro. It's just you and the homie, whatever, man. But inside, I was like, ouch.
Especially if he's your homie, he's telling you the truth.
Right? Right. He's telling the straight up truth. And the way he said it was like, damn, Adrian, you got fat. And it was such a slap in the face that I got angry. And I didn't get angry at him. I got angry at me. I was like, dude, what? You had a 6-pack in high school. What is this? Because I had a 6-pack at a point in my life. So I was like, what the hell happened to you? And so as we go to the backyard and we're, smoking, that's when I tell him, because the whole time we're smoking, we're having a conversation. I can't even pay attention to the conversation because the only thing I hear in my head is, damn, Adrian, you got fat. It's just going around like a negative lullaby. And it was at that point where I just kind of involuntarily, when you say something without thinking about it, it was like I thought it and said it simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, I'm about to lose all of this weight. Just watch. And I remember whenever I said that, in my mind, I was like, oh, I guess I'm going on a weight loss journey.
Gotta do it.
I didn't, right? I did, because now I was like, all right, now here's where, am I going to follow through on my word, right? Because I didn't wake up that day wanting to lose weight. I woke up that day sad, depressed, out of shape. I get it, but I wasn't ready to change until something happened. And it's like I woke up from this 4-year-long slumber. And whenever he said, all right, whatever, in my mind, I knew I was serious. He goes home. I go inside. I pull up. So remember, 4 years prior, I was deep into bodybuilding. Like, I wasn't a bodybuilder, but I trained and ate like one, you know? So like in high school, everybody knew me for like having the muscles and like, that. And so all that knowledge was still there. Like the internal like knowledge of a bodybuilder was still there. Yeah. And so what I ended up doing was I got a piece of paper and I wrote out a 6-week-long workout program within like 10 minutes. I just wrote out this full program and I was like, all right, I'm going to cycle through this thing every 6 weeks. And this is what I'm going to do. It was a traditional bro split, you know, chest, triceps, legs, shoulders, traditional shit, but it worked. Right. And so I was like, all right, cool. I had a little bit of idea on nutrition, you know, like I just remember, okay, eat my macros and stuff like that. But I wanted to refresh like myself on what kind of meals I could eat. So I got on Google, got on YouTube, started YouTubing and Googling all this meal plans. And then I ended up writing up my meal plan and I went to H-E-B that day, bought the groceries, came back. I threw out all the shit, the Doritos, the hot fries, the freaking cup. I used to love cupcakes. I started throwing just everything out. Like, yo, this is it, you know? And then 9 months later, I lose 91 pounds. Within 9 months, I lost 91 pounds from that point. Now, this is where I get into realizing I can do this for other people. Because in that time span, so at the time I lived at my mom's house, and my mom's house was like the neighborhood house. Like all the homies came and hung out at our house, you know? And so like growing up, there's always like 10 of us always at my house, either playing football, playing video games, whatever. And so when I started working out, all of my friends who are hanging out with me, they got no choice but to work out. Because I'm like, look, if you come to my house, like you already know I am going to be in the garage doing something. So like, you're not just going to hang around.
So everybody was coming to my house and working out. The reason why everybody was coming to my house and working out was because in high school, I was training all the time. My garage was already decked out with weights. So it already had everything, like it was just free weight, right? No machines, everything free weight, which I believe is the best, right? But I have all this stuff here. And so I had the equipment to start like making these workouts up. And so I started creating like the workout of the day with all of my friends. And then one day, one of my friends stops me as I'm explaining things and he goes, Adrian, why don't you just get paid for this? And I was like, huh? I was like, oh shit, people pay people for this, right? I was like, oh my God, like, I think I got something. And then my friend was like, yeah, like this personal training. I was like, all right. So I went inside and I Googled how to become a personal trainer. 3 months later, without a certification, because, you know, by law, it's like you really don't actually need like a license or anything for it. So I was like, you know what? I know what the heck I'm doing. So I made a post on Facebook, yo, $20 sessions. Like, let's start training. Like, you want to come work out with me? And so that's what got me into the fitness space. And then I started, training people out of my garage while I was training in my A certification at the same time. $20 session, seeing like 12 people a day. I was making nothing, but I was very happy because I felt useful for the first time. I was like, oh snap, like people actually like me, like people want me, they depend on me. So I started feeling like this usefulness, this worthiness of like, okay, like I'm worth something. And it was at that time where I was getting bombarded with all these ads, you know. Hey, you're a personal trainer, you're broke, you want to learn how to like, make money online,
make 10K a month,
right? 10K a month, right? And so it got me. I ended up clicking on one of the ads, ended up booking a call. And that's how I got introduced to the high ticket space. And within my I was doing about 6 months out of my garage. And then with about 7 months in, I pivoted to going online. And then, I learned everything from the mentor and how to grow your business, all the, the social media posts, the DMs, the adding people to every single day, Facebook groups, all of this. And I did pretty well. Like within my first 18 months, I did over $300,000. And I did very well. So this is where I know I'm going on and on. So you have any questions?
No, but I actually do want to rewind real quick because I don't know if people appreciate.
So this is now where it starts to lead into the next.
Exactly. I want to get to that. So I think what people need to appreciate is here you are, you've got a friend telling you this awful, painful truth that was deep down inside, right? And you mentioned, you have to lose yourself first to find your way. And maybe you had lost yourself for years potentially before you now got this spark. And then that same friend, was he among the friends who ended up working out with you? Hey, listeners, this is Philip Pape, and I'm excited to announce our upcoming, totally free 21-day challenge starting December 1st. It's called the Wits and Weights No Diet Holiday Body Recomp Challenge. This challenge is about learning how to achieve body recomposition. That's building muscle and losing fat at the same time without dieting or restriction throughout the holidays. I'll be giving you free videos, guides, and personalized coaching in a private group chat to help you enjoy the holidays while being satisfied and guilt-free. The kickoff call is Friday, November 17, and the link to enroll is in the show notes. No matter what episode you are listening to, don't worry. If you're hearing this after November 17, you can still register and get access to the replay and resources before the challenge starts on December 1st. Again, to join the Wits and Weights No Diet Holiday Body Recomp Challenge to build muscle and lose fat without dieting through the holidays, click the link in my show notes. Now back to the episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No choice. He had no choice.
Yeah. But not everybody would take that path. Like a lot of people maybe they would work on themselves, right? But the idea that you not only didn't have people that were preventing you from doing this, not only did you have people that supported you pushed that outward. You pushed that, that love and that desire and that energy out to everybody else. And that quality, I think, has led to eventually people saying, yeah, you should coach people and you'd be great with people and able to have these conversations. I mean, do you realize that yourself?
No, I now that I look back on it, I can definitely see that. I guess I was so adamant around protecting my environment because at the time, I lived with my mom. So like my mom and my stepdad, my mom is not unhealthy, like she is. You think she's like a regular size, but they don't eat the best, and so like
Sure.
They weren't fans of like taking out the bad stuff. They're like, well, we're gonna keep it in the house, and so like I knew like my environment was already challenging me in some ways because I'd still see the cookies and I still see some things that out of sight, out of mind. It was in my mind, inside, and so what I told myself was, okay, if you are gonna be my friend, then like you absolutely have to live this life. And like, you have to have your head on straight because I understand, I started losing myself junior year after the breakup because I met this one stoner and he wasn't like nothing against like marijuana smokers, right? Like I'm not gonna be very straight up. I still do it today. But he was deep into selling other heavy, hardcore drugs. Started hanging out with him. I started dabbling in some very stupid things. And this was around like 17, 18 years old. That's when I realized, oh, dude, like you are easily influenced when you're around these people. And so I just kind of I was so adamant on keeping my friends healthy because I was like, look, I go home and, I still have these temptations, but that's the only place I want temptations. I was like, I don't want to be hanging out with friends who don't give a crap about their health, and I had such great relationships with them that, they trusted me. And so them seeing what I was doing, they were naturally like, all right, well, you look happier. Like, why not us give this a shot? So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So people who are listening, I'm sure there's a lot of people pleasers out there. I've had clients myself that are just, how do I deal with a roommate who's got all this stuff that they bring into the house? And sometimes the strategy is just talk to them, see if number one, they could at least change their behavior to not sabotage what you're doing, but maybe do what Adrian's doing here and draw them in,
Yeah. Like straight up, like I would also like be very strong on your boundaries. Like, like if I'm sorry, but like if I was married to somebody and I was going on a weight loss journey and they just refused to support me, I'd like, hey, look, like you either support me or like I'm out. Like I don't care. Like same, even when it comes to like my romantic relationship right now with the partner I'm with, like with me and her, it's like, there's like, you're not going, like she's ambitious and she, wants to grow a business and stuff like that. I'm like, look, you can do that by all means. I don't mind. I also like the dynamic of, the man being the breadwinner and, and I like that dynamic. I was like, look, I don't care if you can start your business if you want, or you cannot. Either way, it's cool. But the one thing you won't do is not be stagnant in your personal growth. I'm like, if you're not like personally invested in being a better woman, like a better person, like there's no reason we should even keep texting another day, because I'm so intentional with who hangs out with me. I've cut friends off very like, hey, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. Like there's so many, not all relationships are meant to be in your life forever. And I kind of laugh when people boast about like, yeah, all my high school friends were still super tight. Your life probably sucks, man. Like I'm going to be sure, like there's a lot of people I don't hang out with today because of that change in my life. It did shape a lot of people away from my life, but like, how is that bad? To me, I'm like, okay, great. Now I have these weights off of me. I can fly more. You're right.
I agree, man. Got to have the same values. You got to share those values.
Exactly, man. Like literally on my first date with my partner now, I asked her what her political views were, because I was like, look, we are not going
to get it on the table,
get together, right? I'm like, I'm not going to like be with you for 2 years and then find out we have completely different political views. True. I'm like, so like, yeah, it's just like a way I like to live my life.
Man, we're getting into some deep stuff here, and I do it. It's like I have 20 other questions, and this how the podcast goes is that we need to pull on the thread. You were talking about how then this eventually led to, you clicked on the ad, you started getting into the whole world of coaching from a business perspective, and you had another turning point, right?
Yeah. So one thing about the business thing too was the mastermind I invested in was $10K for 3 months. It wasn't until the 4th month that I made my sale. So for 3 months, I went on 27 sales calls. All of them no's. Every single one of them a no. And I know that because I have a piece of paper somewhere in my office, but it's a piece of paper that I tallied every single time I got a no. I was like, God damn it. All right, another no, another no, another no, another no. But the story that kept me going, and I think is very important here, is that 3 feet from gold story and Think and Grow Rich. There's an uncle and a nephew who go out, they hear, oh, it's the gold rush. There's gold. We can go strike gold. They buy these materials. They start digging. They get tired of it. They're like, man, we're not going anywhere. So they go, they junk the materials, and they go about their life. This other wise man is walking by. He sees the junk on the side. He sees the materials on the side, and he's like, oh my God, those are like, you can go dig, but find gold with that stuff. He goes in the building and is like, hey, yo, can I grab this stuff? And like, can I take it? Yeah, go ahead, take it. Cool. So he takes it to start digging, and then he passes by a hole. It's the hole the other uncle was digging. He passes by that hole, and he goes, hey, you already did a lot of the job. Let me just keep digging on this one. Within 3 feet, think, you hit the gold right there. And so in my mind, I said, Adrian, you are 3 feet from gold. If you don't take another sales call, you're going to let somebody else get that yes. And then on the 28th sell, yes, I got a yes. And that's what led me into like believing, oh shit, I can do this. And then that like get up is what kind of took me to actually being successful with it. And during this time of me growing my fitness business, I was experiencing something funny. And you probably experienced this too. I charged a lot of money. It was $5,000 for 3 months of coaching. So it was very expensive. So I'd have somebody give me $5,000 and change their life. Somebody else give me $5,000. But instead of changing their life, they come with this big fat book of excuses. And they tell me every single reason why they can't eat right. Every single reason why they can't go to the gym today. Every single reason why I'm tired today. Like, I get it, right? Yeah. Like, I get it. But instead of getting angry, I get curious. And I'm like, okay, why is this person making the decision to do what I asked them to do? Like they said they want so badly. And why is this person over here saying they want something so badly? Now they know what to do, but they're still not doing it. And so I became invested in, like, obsessed with understanding why people knew what to do, wanted to do it, but didn't do it. And so that just became like this obsession of mine. So I was like, all right, well, how do I kind of figure that out? So I was like, all right, well, I was like into spirituality at the time. Like I loved, I was reading a lot of Wayne Dyer at the time. I was reading a lot of Joe Dispenza at the time. And so I was like, okay, let me go like YouTube some shit by Joe Dispenza because I think there's something here. And Joe Dispenza is talking about, if you want to change your behavior, you have to rewire your neural pathways. And so I'm sitting here like, that's it. Because weight loss, like if we're going to look at it at the most fundamental thing, weight loss is literally you being different. What I mean by that is weight loss is you being a different person and doing different things and to lose the weight. And so I was like, all right, that's it. If I can help somebody be somebody different, I can help them lose the weight before they even step inside the gym. They lose the person who gained the weight. Because the reason why I've never gained my weight back after 5-6 years now is because I lost the person who gained that weight. And so I was like, look, if I can help, because the word person comes from the word persona. The word persona means the false mask, which means you can take that thing off. So I was like, if I can help them take off this, don't fat shame me, but if I can help them take off this fat mask, all right, this mask of like, I can't take care of my health, I can't do this. If I can help them take that off and put on, I can do this, I'm a healthy person, a new way of seeing themselves, I can change their life. So I was like, well, let me figure out how I can do that. So I started looking into cognitive behavior therapy. But the problem with that is on average, it's a 38% success rate, on average 22 to 26 sessions. I was like, whoa, I would not pay for some. I would not pay for that. I was like, that seems very ineffective. And secondly, I was like, that success rate is like laughable to me too. I was like, okay, there has to be something better than this. And I came across a freaking article that said better than therapy 100% of the time. I was like, okay, good headline. Click the headline. It was a big article on this thing called hypnosis, and it has a 93% success rate on an average of 3 to 5 sessions. I was like, okay, that's effective. And so I'm somebody who doesn't really believe things unless I actually experience it. And so I questioned everything growing up if I didn't experience it. And so instead of just buying into hypnosis, let me experience it. I had a fear of public speaking, funny enough. I hired a hypnotist. He hypnotized me over the phone. It wasn't even Skype.
Okay.
It was like
all right.
over the phone, hypnotized the shit out of me. I woke up. I just couldn't. I was the most confident person you could imagine. Like my voice, I just started speaking a lot more. I started getting speaking engagement. I started a podcast 4 days after the hypnosis session. I started, and like everything just kind of came out like this confident, and it changed my life. And I was like, holy shit, this works. I was like, this is real. I'm like, this is not fake. Like, this stuff is real. It seems fake, but it's real. That's when I went deep into understanding how to be a hypnotist, trained in rapid transformational therapy, the Erickson technique. And I started training in all these different techniques, and I kind of created my own process. Then I started working with people. And that's basically how I got into hypnosis, was from that, people not getting the results I wanted, people not doing the things that they said they would do, and me just being curious instead of angry, and curious enough to follow my curiosity. And then it led me into, all right, now here's this thing. In my very first session was a test session, right? I was like, I hit up my fitness clients and I was like, yo, I'm doing hypnosis now. I've been training in this stuff. And before I start charging for it, I want to get good at it. So I want to start having some guinea pig sessions. Yep. One of my clients was like, Adrian, I've been struggling with alcohol, man. Like, he wasn't like an alcoholic, he was a functioning, he came home every day and had to drink at 12, a tall boy. And he was like, look, man, it's not ruining my life, but man, I just don't want to have this dependency anymore, And so we did this session. He dropped his alcohol habit in one session. That was my first session. Can you imagine the level of confidence I picked up from that thing? The moment it worked, I was like, Tony Robbins, who? I just became this super, super confident person with hypnosis. And I went on and I've done over 400 sessions since then. So,
man.
Yeah, man.
So there's so much there to unpack. I mean, back from the point of how you got to deciding hypnosis was a tool, you were talking about first the stuff that I could relate to, and then I want to get into the stuff where my skepticism hairs go up, just like yours did, would be how somebody can drop their mask. You said they take off their mask and they start becoming the person they really are, the person that they aspire to be. Not even aspire to be. It's the person they are, right? Sounds like, and they just need to now inhabit that and take the action to close that gap. And I've heard it expressed different ways, the aspirational version of you, to
me, like a short definition of the mask that I mean is the way that you see yourself, because you can't act out of alignment with how you see yourself. If you see yourself as lazy, fat, out of shape, unmotivated, it is an impossible, literally pigs will probably fly before you can be consistent. If you believe you're an inconsistent person and you see yourself as that, that's the mask you're wearing. It'll be impossible. I guarantee impossible for you to be more consistent from longer than 2 weeks at anything. if you see yourself like that. So you have to see yourself differently. And that's what I mean by changing the mask. Today, I'm wearing a mask. Like, I'm wearing a mask. And the mask I'm wearing is I'm a confident speaker. I am a badass entrepreneur. I know what to do. And like, I see myself in this light. I'm worthy and deserving of everything that I want, right? It's a mask, right? But it's one I'm intentionally putting on and wearing. And the reason why I say mask is because I know that I'm not this. Like when I die, I know that I don't die, you know? And so I have deeper beliefs there. But yeah, so that's kind of where I don't want to go on.
No, I love that, because anyone listening who's on their health and fitness journey and are thinking in those phrases, the phrases of I can't do this or I am this, sounds like, even a very simple exercise could probably get them to transform from, I have to do this till I get to this. I am this versus I am this. Yeah. I just interviewed a client, actually, the podcast, it was 2 episodes that just came out, and she said, I had this on the episode as well. She said, I'm a young, healthy, beautiful mom, but sometimes the mirror lies or something like that.
Mirror lies. I like that.
It's just a little bit of a twist on that.
Yeah, I like that. It's nice. But no, it's cool. It's like, like, this is like, she's seeing that's her identity, right? And she holds on to that long enough, you're only going to act like that. Like, you can't get me to eat like shit today. Like, maybe I can, like, down a stack of pancakes or something and drown it in syrup, but you can't get me to do that all night. You can't get me to do that every day, because a fit person doesn't live like that.
Yeah. Now, what did you look at other potential ways to address this with your clients before you got to the hypnotherapy?
No, the moment. So I only came across cognitive behavior therapy. The second thing I came across was hypnosis. That just sold the shit out of me because of what it did for me. And I was like, all right, this thing is real. And then I started like understanding the science behind it. I was like, oh, it's not weird at all. I was like, it is the most logical thing ever. And so I just started really going, like, just studying it.
Do your podcast hosts ask for you to do the session on them? Because I'm really tempted to do this, just like you did, not on the show, but I'm very skeptical. And actually, one of the premises of this show is the skepticism of the fitness industry. We haven't really talked about topics like this. I definitely don't go into spirituality, but we talk about mindset. We talk about neuroscience a little bit. Help someone who's listening who hasn't tried it yet break through that barrier of skepticism if you can.
Okay. So, right now, let me ask you this. Are you aware of the sensations in your left foot right now, Philip?
Well, now I am.
Now you are. But before you weren't.
Correct.
So what I mean by that is before you were in a trance. A trance is where your focus is only focused on what's relevant to the point where you block out all other information, right? Your foot never disappeared. It was always there, but you're fully absorbed in this moment. In other words, you are in a hypnotic trance right now, listening. You're fully in. Anybody who's listening right now, if they're like deep into this episode, they're likely not thinking about their bills, right? Because they're fully in trance. So we always live in this thing called a trance. A trance is you're going to experience whatever it is you're focused on, despite everything else. Like, if you genuinely believe you're not enough and you feel like you suck at stuff, like you genuinely believe that, you will block out all the information that says you are a badass. And that information is there, but you'll block it all out. If me and you were at my house right now, Philip, and I said, hey man, let's make some spaghetti, and you went to my pantry to go, only thing you would see is you would immediately see the noodles, the pasta sauce, the bread, but you would miss the Fruity Pebbles. You would miss the things because you're not looking for them. You're focused on spaghetti. And so I'm breaking that down because I want people to understand what a trance is. Like, you're hypnotized every single day. For example, if you're watching something or you're online and you click an ad and buy something, you got hypnotized. The other day, I bought this $47 product. I didn't even know what I was buying. That's how good the copywriting was. I read the headline. Immediately, I could not stop reading. Like, the second line, I was like, okay. Like, in my mind, I was like, I just want to scroll. But it just, like, whoever this guy was a freaking monster at the copy. I was like, I can't stop going. And then before I knew it, I was like, okay, where's my wallet? Like, I was like, where's my wallet? Because I'm about to buy this thing. And I was like, maybe 50% sure on what the product was. I didn't really know. So I'm about to buy this thing. That is a hypnotic trance. It's when your information takes you into such a way where it influences you to act. And so what hypnosis is now, and so this is now where I bring in hypnosis. Hypnosis, if you look it up, it's going to say hypnosis is a hypnotic it's a trance. It's a trance-like state. That's wrong. Hypnosis is not a trance-like state. Hypnosis is a tool that gets you into a trance-like state. So you're in a trance right now. I want everybody to understand your consciousness is ginormous. There's no way in hell your consciousness didn't narrow its focus for you to be alive right now. Like, this is a big trance that you're living in right now. And so now it's getting esoteric, but I want people to understand this. What hypnosis does is hypnosis takes your brain from beta. So right now you're in beta. If you're listening to this podcast, you're definitely in beta. Unless you're like bored and you're passing out, you're probably in alpha, but you're in beta. Hypnosis slows you down to theta. So there's beta. Underneath beta is alpha. Alpha is what you experience when you're taking a nice walk, and like you don't like when you have your phone away, right? Because it can still be stressful if you're looking at your phone. Yep. You have your phone away, you're just taking a nice walk, you can that relaxing state, alpha. You're taking a shower, the warm water's running over your head, you're just like, alpha. You look at your wife, your husband, somebody you're genuinely in love with, not just like your roommate, right? Somebody you're genuinely in love with, you will feel your body relax and calm down, right? When I look at my partner, like my body relaxes and calms down. When you have sex, it starts to go down. When you're reading, you go down to alpha. And then underneath alpha, you have theta. Theta is the brainwave that you're in when you're taking a nap and whenever you're like slumbering throughout the night. Theta, and you do go down to delta throughout the night. That's dreamless sleep. But theta is where you have all your dreams. Now, this is important because theta, when you're in your dream state, haven't you ever realized when you're in a dream, you don't know you're in a dream? Mm-hmm. It feels like real life. The reason why is because the experience part of your mind is fully engaged and it thinks it's actually happening. This is why I kind of move a lot when I sleep. Like my partner's like, hey, babe, last night, like you were like kind of moving your hands in some weird way. I'm like, well, duh, I was fighting off a dragon. Like, like what you expect me to do, right? But like your body will move along with you in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah. It's like when you fall,
right? You're fully inside of that experience, like a fall. Exactly. You're fully inside of that experience. So what hypnosis does is it gets you from beta and it slows you down to theta. Now, when you're in theta, the doorway in between your conscious and unconscious mind swings open. And when that doorway swings open, you now have the ability to rewrite whatever you want on your subconscious mind. And when I say rewrite what you want, I mean, for example, I had a client. He came to me. He was like, Adrian, I'm having a lot of trouble making posts about my business. Like, I get nervous making posts about my business. I feel scammy. Like, I feel weird even charging people money. Like, he's a fitness guy. I just want to help people. And like, can you help me out? Sure. We did a hypnosis session. And in my process, I get them to go back to certain memories because when we go through life, we make decisions about ourselves. For example, he went back to a memory where he was 5 years old and it was baseball practice. And all his friends already got picked up. He was the last kid there, waiting for his mom to pick him up. Only the coach was there, of course, watching the little boy looking over him. It starts getting dark. He's like, man, where's my mom? In his mind, that moment, my mom must have forgot about me, which means I'm not important. I'm not important became a belief that he internalized and it became a mask. It became a way that he saw himself. He defined himself as not important. And so although that wasn't true, his mom just was late that day. She got stuck in traffic, maybe, stayed a little late for work. She picked him up. She still loved him all the way, right? But in that little boy's mind, he came to a conclusion that he was not important. So no wonder at age 30-something, he's having trouble putting out his business and growing it and talking about it because he's not important. What's the point? That's why he says, I feel like I'm like, scamming people, or even though he knows he's not, right? Even though he knows, like, I'm genuinely just trying to help people. Even though he knows that, he felt like he's taken from people. Or he felt like he's getting in people's way when he sends them a message. If he makes a post, he's bothering them. It was coming from this I'm not important that was deep in his subconscious mind. And so what I helped him do was like, all right, now you're hypnotized. Right now you're in theta brainwaves. Since you're in theta brainwaves, what you're going to do is you're going to look at that little boy and you're going to like change that belief system. In other words, you're going to tell him the truth. And I look, man, like you're not important. Like mom was just late that day. It's reparenting. This is where you call inner child work. You reparent the child. And when you reparent the child, your perspective will change. I don't care how old you are. You are still a little kid inside. My dad, he's like, Adrian, the only thing that's different when you get older is people look at you different. But when you look outside, you feel the same. He was like, I'm almost 60, but I still feel like I'm 20 years old, Adrian, and that's the reality. It's like when I see my dad still has his times where he will pout his leg. Like he will get mad and, like hit his leg. That's like a little 5-year-old. Like that's like his little kid who hasn't been fully, addressed and acknowledged and healed. And so that's literally all hypnosis is. Hypnosis is just like going to the doctor. You're going to believe anything the doctor says. You go to the doctor, your beta brainwaves kind of slow down. And the doctors are like, if you go to the doctor and say you're nervous and you have high blood pressure for that moment, they will tell you have high blood pressure problems. And then all of a sudden you truly believe, oh shit, I got high blood pressure. Now you accepted that belief. And so what I do is I help people pinpoint the beliefs that are stopping them and accept brand new beliefs, because you make decisions to believe something about yourself. You can make a decision to believe something new about yourself, but it's hard to do that when in your beta state. It's hard to do that when it can be done, but it sticks more permanently whenever it's done subconsciously, And so, I mean, I don't know if that broke, people's skepticism. The only thing I'm going to say is if you experience it yourself. But the reality is you're hypnotized right now. You're always hypnotized. You will never not be hypnotized. You're always in some kind of hypnotic trance. Just like, my little nephew was here. He's been here all spring break, right? I wanted him to come stay with me. And all spring break, I've been telling him, dude, you are a badass. No matter what you do, I want you to know that you got your head on right. I want you to know that you're a genius. I want you to know that you're worthy. You can figure out anything. I'm constantly telling these things to him because he's a little boy right now. These things he's going to choose to believe about himself. And then growing up, he's going to have those internal beliefs that, I am worthy. I am enough. And most of the reasons people don't get what they want because they don't believe they're worthy or deserving of it. So they don't do the things to get it.
Before my coaching session with Philip, I was really struggling with staying consistent with my nutrition. Philip really showed me the importance of being consistent day to day. He also helped me see that it's not a bad thing to take a rest day. He really helped me get in that more positive headspace of a rest day being something really good for me. I've been doing this for a month now, and I'm finally starting to see some progress in my numbers, and I'm really excited about that. And I just appreciate so much the help that Philip has given me. He's always willing to answer questions, to offer resources that are totally free and very, very helpful. So I just want to say how much I appreciate that. Thanks, Philip.
I think you convinced me. I mean, it's not even a matter of convincing. I think the way you laid it out, that there's this surface level we all live in, that we're always in a trance. I mean, I know I'm in a trance. My wife's trying to talk to me and I'm working and I don't even hear her speaking.
Yeah, you love her to death, but you are fully involved with your work. And so that's why she'll be like, did you even listen to me, Philip? Right? But to you, it's like your mind just didn't register the information because of the trance that you're in. Right. And so yeah, man.
And I've told her, and I actually had to say, hey, look, this happens to me, so it's nothing personal. If you just come tap me and get my attention, please, because this is who I am. She's used to it now.
Involve me in your trance, and then I'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the idea of this calming you down to a different level of brainwaves. I mean, I get that. I mean, to me, that sounds scientific. It sounds rational. It's
easier to change. Yeah. When your brain is slower, when you're more calm. That's why people who are just more calm typically make better decisions.
Now, can we do this with ourselves?
Yeah, 1,000%. So it may take a little bit longer. Having somebody facilitate the process. I'm actually don't reach out to me, actually, guys. I'm closing down this business, and we'll go into that a little bit. But the reality is yes, you can do this by yourself. I'll give you guys a video. I'll give them a video so they can do this by themselves. But there are some ways they can do it by themselves. It's self-hypnosis. Everything is self-hypnosis, though. Like when I hypnotize somebody, I'm not hypnotizing them. I'm guiding them in a way to hypnotize themselves. As a hypnotist, I don't have some kind of powers. Right. I just get people to hypnotize themselves. So hypnosis at the most deepest foundation is always self-facilitated. No matter what, you may have somebody helping you facilitate the process, but the change is happening by self. And so I only do whenever I was running it, I only did 3 sessions with people, never more than 3. Cause I was like, if you start, wanting to come see me every month, what's going to happen is you're going to stop believing in your own suggestion. And you're going to think, oh, every time I'm anxious, let me call Adrian. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that to you.
Right. You're not a therapist,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, we're not going to talk about your problems. We're going to talk about for 5 minutes and then we're going to do the thing to get rid of it. Right. So,
yeah, it's awesome. Have you seen the Netflix movie Stutz with Jonah Hill?
No.
I think you'd like that. Check it out because it's him and his psychotherapist, but the psychotherapist is a really cool guy that he kind of throws out all the traditional psychotherapy and he's like, we just need tools. We need tools to get you moving forward. We need to solve your problems together. I think you'd like it.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've seen it pop up all the time. Yeah. I just never clicked on it yet.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It doesn't, opposite of that hook that got you to pay $47, it doesn't necessarily hook you to want to watch it. And so until you hear people talking about it,
slow to me, right? I'm just like,
no, watch it and let me know what you think.
You can blame me. You sold me. Yeah.
So, all right. So you alluded to closing the business and moving to something else. So that's an excellent segue. You're pretty good at this because I haven't asked any one of my questions and yet we're exactly going through every single topic we wanted to cover. So want to turn to podcast guesting a little bit here, which...
just so you know, I'm not sure about your timing. I got some extra time after the hour, so we're going to go a little bit longer. If there's any other questions that you do want to kind of dig into.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no. So on the guesting side, I mean, I'm having a lot of fun with just going on shows, just like you're doing here, talking to people. It helps me reach a bigger audience, right? Like you said, a huge borrowed audience that I don't already have, which is it's helping me with my business, but first and foremost, it helps me get the message out there. And then if people want to connect and find value from that, that's awesome. How did you come up with that idea? And it sounds unique in the way that you approach it. And that's what I want to get into. So how did you come up with that?
For sure. So, although I'm talking about like this hypnotherapy business and how I did all of these sessions, before I did all of the sessions, I started struggling. And so what I mean by that is whenever I be fully transitioning, so I truly believe that if you're going to do something, do only that and not multiple things. And that's also why I'm closing down my hypnotherapy business. I like to live the essentialist life, right? And so I shut down my fitness business because I was like, if I'm going to be the best hypnotist, best at what I do, like I got to only do this. And so I applied everything I used to grow my fitness business, the DMs, the social posts, the stories, adding people. But all of a sudden, nothing worked. Like it just wasn't selling. Like it was so hard to sell hypnotherapy. I'm not going to lie. Like it was so hard. Even though I was setting like, the end result, like, look, you're going to feel this, you're going to feel that. I get it. I was just struggling to sell. And I was like, God dang, like what's going on? And, I started feeling kind of ashamed because I lost everything. And what I mean by that was the first $300,000 that I made, I blew it all because I didn't know how to manage my money. And so I found myself with, a little bit over $10,000. To me, that's not a lot of money. So I found myself a little bit over $10,000. My business was crashing. I even had to move back to my mom's house for a period of time. Like it was painful, man. And then like I was also semi-famous in like this big mastermind I was in. Everybody knew who I was in that mastermind and everybody was talking to me every day. So like to make it worse, I had to act like things were okay. So that made it worse. And then in this state of desperation, remember 3 feet from gold, I just kept that in the back of my mind. Because you can't fail if you keep going. And so I was like, okay, we're just gonna keep going. And then, but there has to be another way to do this business thing and get clients. And one day, I hypnotized one of my clients, changed her life. She came back to me like a week later and was like, Adrian, like, I'm telling you, my life is so different. She was like, is there any way you can come and speak to my clients? I have a mastermind. I usually get about like 25 people who show up live, but a lot of people watch the replay. I was like, yeah, sure. We're not really thinking much of it. I was like, yeah, why not? So, and I like speaking. So I went and I did the talk and only 9 people showed up. So I was like, okay, it kind of bummed me out, but I was like, I'm still going to go out for these 9 people. And I also knew people would watch the replay. So I did the talk, 40-minute talk, answer questions for like 15 minutes, but I did like a group hypnosis too. So it wasn't just a talk. Like they all got hypnotized. It was cool. And then, after the talk, I went to I live in a 2-story house. So after the talk, I walked downstairs, and about 2 steps from the bottom, my right leg vibrates. Reach into my pocket, pull it out, and I see a message. And it's, how can I work with you? And I looked at the name. I was like, oh, this was somebody who was just on that call.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, I was desperate. I was like, hey, look, you can just book a call here, right?
Yeah.
And then about not even a minute later, a second message came in. They were like, I was on that call. That was amazing. How can I work with you? I was like, whoa, okay. I got them both on the call, separate calls, but they both closed within like the sales calls were like 15 minutes. Like they were like, I don't care. Like I need to work.
They were hot, as they say. They were smoking hot.
Yeah. They're hot leads, very hot leads.
Yeah.
And they each paid in full. So I charged $5K for 3 sessions, still expensive. They each paid in full. And then the next day, somebody messaged me and said, hey, I just watched the replay. I'm having something going on. I think you can help me. Are you taking clients? Yes, I'm taking clients. All right. Closed him. And they each paid in full. So I collected 15 grand in 2 days. And I sat there like, hold on. Let me dissect what just happened. I was like, how did this happen? And I was like, okay, each one of them paid in full. They didn't bat an eye at my price. Think about it. I was charging $5 grand for 3 sessions. You can go find another hypnotist who will charge you maybe $300 for 5 sessions, for 3 sessions. And so like the price difference was astronomical, but they were still giving me their money. They were still choosing me, and they were great clients. And so I was like, how can I find more of these people? Well, that's when the epiphany hit me. Oh, so the best way to get business is to be endorsed by the people and the organizations that have your business. So if you can get endorsed by the people that already have the attention and the trust of your audience, you automatically take that attention and trust into you. And now you can take that audience and bring them to your audience, which is what I saw. And so I'm like, all right, I need to get in front of more audiences. And so I started writing down a list of like the people I knew who ran masterminds. I was going to pitch them if I can speak at their mastermind. And I was writing down all these lists, and then an idea hit me. I was like, okay, who's my client's an entrepreneur, is a high ticket coach, this entrepreneur. Every entrepreneur I know listens to at least one podcast a day. And podcasts are like masterminds because podcasts have a leader, a trusted leader, the host, and they have a very engaged audience, the listeners. I need to get on podcast. And so there was this lady in my space, the podcasting space, I say, who was like the queen of podcast guesting. Everybody called her that. Like she kind of had a name for herself. So I bought her course, and that taught me how to get booked on podcasts. And I was like, all right, cool. Looks simple. So I used her pitch and I sent it out to 40 podcasts, and not a single one responded. I was like, I didn't even get a no. Like, they didn't even respond. I was like, damn. Like, all right. I was like, well, instead of sending, to me, again, when things don't work, I stop and I look at it. I was like, all right, 40 pitches, no responses. Maybe I shouldn't send another pitch. And so let me refine what's going on, see if I can change what's going on. And so I looked at the pitch and I started to dissect the pitch. I was like, all right, why is this pitch not working? What's going on about it? Well, the first part of the pitch, it literally started like, hello, my name is Adrian, and I am a hypnotherapist, and I do blank, 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 blank. That's how the pitch, you, right? Right? That's how the pitch started.
Yeah.
And my mind went off. I was like, oh my God. I was like, the first rule of marketing is nobody gives a damn about you because we're only in it for ourselves. And that's facts. Like nobody can sit here and say, well, no, we care about you. Look, when you're reading my stuff, chances are it's because you're looking for it to do something for you. All right. And so it's all about me. And that was the first red flag. I didn't catch it at first. I was like, okay, well, that's a clear reason it wasn't working. And then the second thing was the email was like 850 words. So I was sending them a book.
It's like a blog article.
like I was sending, like they were like, it was a chore to read that thing. And so I was like, oh my God, if I got this email, delete right away. Like, I don't care if like you can mention to me at the bottom that you're Michael Jordan. I would have deleted it because like I was just like, I don't like this. It's just way too much on the eyes. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to trash. I'm going to act like I didn't buy this course. I'm going to figure this thing out on my own because this is not effective. And so I was like, okay, well, what am I like? as a hypnotist, I knew some things about influencing human behavior. So I was like, all right, what influences human behavior more than anything else? Emotions. All right. How do you pull on people's emotions? You tell stories. Like, chances are people have had certain emotions here in my story this whole time. The reason why is because when you tell a story, you create a mental movie in somebody's mind. And we all emotionally react to images. Right now, imagine the person you love the most, whether it's your kids, whether it's your wife, whether it's your dog. Just picture them in your mind. Your nervous system starts to feel different emotions. And so it's images that influence emotions. And so I was like, all right, images influence emotions. I need to create a picture in this host's mind during this pitch. Because if I can create a picture in their mind, I'm now the director of that movie. And I can tell them what to do next. And so I was like, all right, so I got to tell a story. But man, how can I tell a story in a way that's like, I still get a chance to tell my story, but it doesn't take forever to tell it. And I was like, well, I know that I'm really good on video. If I could send a super short email, like 100 words, and just get them to click the video, and I can get them on that video, that's it. Because I can tell a story on that video. And so I was like, okay, I think I got it. And so again, I was a speaker. So I had a framework of how to speak. And so I just got that framework and I condensed it down to like 3 minutes. I was like, all right, let me take out all these pieces and let me put in the pieces that really make sense. And I started sending per video. So it wasn't one video that I sent to 10 podcasts. It was, I sent one video to each podcast. It was a different video per podcast. I said their name, said the name of their show, said why I love their show. You know it. And I sent 10 out and got 8 bookings. And so I was 8 out of 10. I was like 8 out of 10 compared to 0 out of 40. This is something
working.
Right. And so I went on, pitched 121 shows, got booked on 52 of them, and was able to generate over 6 figures over a year. Granted, it took maybe about 5 months to start getting paying clients from it, but it was a compound snowball effect. The moment the clients started coming in 5 months later, it was every week applications are coming in. I was like, holy shit, like, where are all these people coming from? So I started putting in the application. Where did you hear about me? And I started to see so-and-so podcast, so-and-so podcast, so-and-so. I was like, it's working. Like, it's working. And then that's basically how I came up with the idea, though, man. It was just, shit's not working. Let me figure out something else. I'm tired of sending DMs all day. Like, there has to be another way to get business. And this is it. And so once I figured out I had something, I wrote a blog article on it. It blew up. Everybody was saying, like, that was a crazy good article. I think you should make a course. I was like, hey, that might be something I could do. And the process is so short. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Made a post. I was like, yo, if I made this course, who would want to buy it? I was like, I'm going to charge $47 for the first 10 people. And 10 people sent me $47 before I even made the course. And I was like, all right, so that validated the idea. And then I was like, all right, now I'm about to run a workshop, $100. Who wants it? So 40 of those. I was like, oh, damn, people want this thing. And then after I did the workshop, I knew it was a good enough idea because of the behavior of the audience, because of their interest. Instead of just my idea, their behavior was telling me that this was something worth shooting for. And yeah, man. And I was like, all right, well, let me go ahead and make this course. And before I knew it, a lot of people just started buying it.
I mean, you're solving a problem, right? I know as a podcast, wannabe podcast guest, that the cold pitches, you get ghosted. Just like you said, you get ghosted all the time. And even the few pitches that I've sent with your program, I'm refining my power story, by the way. So I don't want to send it out to 50 people before I get that improved, but I've done already and had some shows come out of it. But even the people that didn't want me on responded, which is not something I would have had before.
Yeah,
right?
Dude,
you get them to listen. They can't help it. They're like, "Oh, this is interesting."
Yeah, and most people don't get videos. So whenever you send a video pitch, you stand out. So even if you're trying to get a job, send a video pitch to them. It's
exactly.
It's like they work phenomenally well. And when you get to see somebody's facial expressions, so when you see somebody's facial expressions, that's like their emotional state. Because our face does show our emotions. Like, if I was pissed off, you'd know this whole time I was pissed off, right? But when somebody sees my facial expressions in a video, their mirror neurons start mimicking my emotions. So if I'm very enthusiastic, I start enthusiastic, they're feeling enthusiastic watching it. And then I get emotional and I'm like, yeah. And then, I I saw my dad one day drop to his knees and scream to my mom to not leave him. And I felt scared in that moment. When I do that, they're seeing all of my body. They're seeing the way that I'm moving. The way that mirror neurons work is they observe and they repeat. And so they're observing it and repeating it, and they're fully emotional now. And when at the end, I'm like, yeah, so would you like me on your show? Like, I mean, if you got them in a good way, like they're going to say yes, you know? And to date, I think this will be like my 79th podcast. So I'm gunning for 100 in the next couple of months.
There you go. Now, you didn't pitch me. Let's be honest. I actually asked you to come on because, we had that relationship and you really helped me a lot. So I wanted people to hear it too.
That's a good disclaimer. I did not pitch Philip to be on this show. He pitched me, but I'm happy that he did because it's been an awesome conversation.
Yeah. I said to you an email like, how would I pitch you if it was a good pitch? You're like, just to ask.
Dude, right now I'm trying to get Sam Parr on my podcast. He runs My First Million, super, super successful guy. I sent him like 3 different pitches. He has like 3 different like asks to be on my show. He just opens it because they're on Facebook. I'm sending them on Facebook so I can see if he's opening them. Yeah. I try to guess his email. I couldn't guess it because I guess a lot of emails. But and today I saw that he didn't open. He opened my last mention and didn't do anything. So I put it on my calendar to next week by Thursday. If he doesn't respond, I'm gonna send him a gift. And, it's just gonna be a funny gift. Like, hey, I'm just saying, But I'm very persistent if I want somebody on my show. So,
well, the listeners of this show are going to benefit a lot because of that advice you gave me to just ask. Because we've got like 6 or 7 big names coming on that are like my idols in the industry, and they're coming on the show.
I heard this by Brian Tracy. The world belongs to people who ask for what they want.
Yeah, for sure. So I know I got a ton more questions, but we're almost out of time here. What do we want to cover here? Because there's the whole podcasting thing. There's like which benefits.
Whatever you want to. Yeah. I'm chilling. Wherever you want to take this conversation, wherever you think it will be the most valuable for your audience. If there's any like burning question that you didn't get to ask,
Yeah. I mean, so how would people are listening, right? And they're like, well, how do I even pick the shows, and how do I go for the top ranked shows? How do I get on the best shows? And even me personally, I would love to know because, we're now a top 5% podcast here, and I would love to get on a 0.1% podcast one day. How can somebody do that?
Yeah, for sure. So there's 2 ways to do it. Well, 3 ways. I'm going to list them in order of effectiveness. The first way, okay, let's put some context though. Let's say, so let me know if this is accurate. It sounds like what you're asking is how do you get booked on these top shows and how do you get booked on the best shows when you don't really have a name? Like you're not really like big and known and,
right.
It's hard to Google you, right? I mean. So, yep. Okay. So if that's the case, I always recommend you first get at least 15 to 20 smaller shows under your belt. Now, just 2 things. First thing is it allows you to refine your story, allows you to get better and better as you're telling that story. The second thing that it does is it allows you to stack enough credibility to pitch a bigger show. So I did 25 shows that weren't even ranked before I pitched. So I had a list of the top ranked shows, but I was like, I'm not going to pitch shows right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my track record and show. So when I do pitch them and I'm like, hey, I want to be on your show, yada. Below, I leave a link to all the other episodes I've done. They click that link and they see, oh, this guy's done 20 plus interviews. In their mind, that positions you as a higher authority. They're like, oh, he must have something to say. Like this guy must be of some credibility if he's repeatedly being booked on shows. And so I use that as like I use that as like an asset to get booked on a bigger show. So go for the smaller shows, the ones that probably don't have rankings. And another thing, let me also get this very clear. Remember, I got 3 out of 9 clients. I got 3 clients out of a group of 9 people. All right. When you're powerful, when you tell powerful stories, you're great at what you do. Even if it's a small audience, 100 people, that's an engaged 100 people. If you work with single moms and you go on a show with 100 single moms listening, those 100 single moms are really invested in this podcast. They're like probably fans of the host. They're probably friends of the host. So they are bought into the freaking podcast. And so that's an engaged audience. I've gotten, maybe 20 grand plus off of a small audience. Right. And so people fall into the trap of going for just all the big audiences. So that's me telling the audience and you to like, don't fall for that trap. The smaller shows do have a return too, if they're a highly engaged audience and, they got a good host. Right. So that's the first way. The second way is to leverage the host, leverage the past interviews that you've done. So I got on a show with 1.8 million listeners every year. This was the biggest show I got on. The way I got on this show was I actually pitched this one guy who runs this podcast, Beyond the Rut. I pitched him, got on his show. And after his show, I was like, do you happen to know any guests that any podcast hosts that may like benefit from having me on? First, I build a relationship. So I do the episode, and then afterwards, I'm like, hey, look, can you give me your phone number and text me whenever the episode's out so I can just see it? I'm not too big on email. And then they give me their number. Now we're like friends even more because when you have somebody's number subconsciously, you think you're a little bit closer. And then I text them the next day. Hey, I got a good guest for you. Since I know some awesome people, I add more value to their life. After I add value to their life, I then say, do you know any guests any host who would, have me on since you've actually since you've experienced what I bring? Who do you think who do you think was helpful? He happened to know Joe Winters, which is the guy who runs the Daily Path show, got me on that show. Right. And he just messaged. I didn't even need to pitch Joe Winters. He messaged Joe Winters. Joe Winters replied, anybody who's a friend of blank and who's been recommended by blank doesn't have to go through the interview process. Just here, book your interview here. And like, nice. I trust this is going to be a great show. That was a ginormous show. So that's the second effective way, right? To like build a relationship, because podcast hosts rub elbows with other podcast hosts. They know each other. So leverage that. And the third way, this can be the least effective if you haven't done step one, which is at least get 20 to 25 shows under your belt. But it can be very effective after you've done that. And that is pitching the big show directly. Like I've pitched many big shows directly now. Again, make your ask. And many of them have said yes because of the power of the pitch itself. Mm-hmm. Right. And so those would be the three ways to get booked on like shows that actually have your audience. But those would be the three ways to get on a top ranked show. But what I want people to focus on instead of top ranked shows, it's great. Focus on shows with your audience, whether it's top ranked or not. You want to focus on shows with your people. So just get clear on who your people are. If you can get clear on who your people are, you know who your people are, then you can find where they're hanging out online, right? There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can just ask your people, hey, what kind of podcasts are you listening to? Like, I'm looking for more shows. What kind of podcasts are you listening to? That's probably one of the most effective ways. Get a list of people through there. Or you can Google, how do you podcast for single moms? Software is like Podmatch. There's many ways to start finding the people in that niche, but focus on people with your audience, because for me, there's no point in, going on a top 1.01% show to a podcast full of, just full of single moms. That probably wouldn't be the best, that probably wouldn't be the best thing for me, It's like, I'd probably do it, but I wouldn't do it for the hope of like, let me build my business off of this, So context around what your goals are too is very important. But if your goal is to build a personal brand, to become known and, get new business, follow what I laid out,
awesome.
And also one more thing. A lot of people believe that, I feel like I don't have a good enough story. I feel like my story is not that powerful, because my story can be pretty intense when I share it with people. Not the story I laid out here, but the one I used to tell in my pitch, is about me being young, seeing my parents fight. Sometimes people are like, I don't have a kind of story like that. And they think that their stories are boring or not interesting. But to that, I say, bullshit, because Claude Hopkins is he was a notorious advertiser. I just see him as one of the best marketers I've ever come across. He's long gone now, but back when Schlitz, is Schlitz a beer? Yeah, Schlitz. I think it's Schlitz. Yeah. So back when Schlitz was trying to take over the U.S. market, and like, just become one of the big beers here. They hired Hopkins to come and write a campaign for them. So Hopkins comes over and then comes to the plant, and then the representative of the beer company says, "Hey, we're going to walk you around the plant, just give you a tour." They're walking him around the plant and giving him this really insightful tour of from A to Z, how beer is made, from A to Z, all the way from whatever the heck step one is, I don't know, to, beer being put in a bottle and being shipped away to be sold. They took him through that process. It blew his mind. He was like, I have never seen something so sophisticated. He was like, this is phenomenal. He was like, why are you not talking about this in your marketing? And they were like, well, it's not special. They said every beer maker makes beer like this. Like, there's nothing special about what we do. And he goes, I know every beer person makes beer like this, but not every company's telling that story. So if you do, watch what happens. Within 12 months, they were number one selling here in the US because all of his campaigns with him telling that story. Every campaign he put out was him talking about every beer says pure. What does that mean? Here's what we mean at Schlitz. It goes through blank, blank, blank. You appreciate that as a beer drinker. You're like, oh, I appreciate, I'd love to do that. And the reason I say that story is because it's not that all stories. The reason I say that story is because all stories, I don't care how mundane you think it is, all stories to the human mind are interesting. It's just that not every story is told. So whenever you start telling a story, automatically become interesting. So whatever your story is, I promise it's interesting as hell. And I promise there's people there who would be endlessly grateful that you told it. So whether you have a business or not, just tell your story. I promise it can be the most powerful thing you can do. Don't become like attached to it to the point where, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a survivor. I went through this thing. Like, I get that. That's when people use stories as crutches in my mind, in my perspective.
Just speak in plain English, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so for me, it's like, the story is always something to catapult me into somewhere I want to be, right? But stories are very powerful no matter what it is. And, my client Chase, she was like, I don't think my story is great enough. I was like, bullshit, follow the framework. She followed the framework. She pitched 6 shows, got all 6 of them. Yeah. And I was like, look, that's what I mean, And so anybody listening, like, your story is very important. And so definitely tell it.
I totally agree, Adrian, because on podcasts, one of the questions I didn't like when I was first guesting was, tell me your story. Tell me your background. I'm like, oh no, here we go again. And I would tell them something that I thought was just kind of mundane, and they find all these insights. Wow, that's so cool that you did this. Wow, I can't believe this. I'm like, oh, really? And
right? Like, I guarantee you today, I guarantee you right now, one of the audience, like some people in the audience, they've had light bulb moments. Right. Exactly. Whether it's, the best way to market is to be endorsed by people. Oh, damn, a mask. We got to change the way we see ourselves. Oh, the power of stories, like just telling your story, like those insights. Right. The reason why we learn so much from stories, because stories lead to insights. Right. And so like one of my other biggest insights in business came from me hearing a story about how an HVAC company grew to 2.2 million in 2 years by piggybacking off of other HVAC companies' customer list. When I heard him say that, I was like, oh my God, another epiphany hit. I can go piggyback off of other companies' list. Yes. Instead of podcast guessing, I can also go get a company who has my list and be endorsed by them. Totally. So yeah, man.
And this is why I brought you on, man, because I know you tell these stories and have this energy, and there's my audience here. I know they want fitness stuff, but we go off on other areas, and they're going to have that epiphany because, like you said, you wouldn't want to be with someone who doesn't want to personally grow out all the time. I think podcasts are a great way to do that. And I think this show will cover a wide variety of topics, and people will tune in right to the end. So I want to just, because we're going to wrap up here, the second to last question I like to ask all guests is, what one question did you wish I had asked, and what is your answer?
One question I wish I had asked. The one question I wish you had asked me, if I wished one, it would be, so Adrian, looking back on the stories you told us today and your life's journey, what would be the lesson you want the audience to walk away with? Because there's many of them, but the one I would want the audience to walk away with more than anything is, and I know like I didn't mention this, but like you're going to die one day. And the lesson I want you to see here is look at the way I lived those stories. each time I had an idea to move on something, I didn't let time get in between me and moving on that idea. The reason why I didn't was because when I was 19 years old, I read in a book, everybody's going to die, but not everybody thinks about that. And that's the exact reason why they never live. It's because they think they have a whole bunch of time. The reason why I'm so urgent, the reason why I do, like, when I think I want to do something and I know it's a good idea, like, I will immediately move on it. The reason I live like that is because, like, I know for a fact I'm going to die. Like, I'm 26, I think 25. I don't know. I'm one of those. I'm at the age where you kind of forget. So anyway, well, I'm one of those ages. I genuinely can't pinpoint the age, but now I'm like sitting here thinking about it. But I'm young, but I remember when I thought I would never be 18, and I felt like that was yesterday. So if I became 18 quicker than I thought I would be, and now I'm 26 or 25, I know for a fact that death is going to happen quicker than I think it will. And so I have to move. And so the lesson I want people to kind of just understand with the way that I've moved with urgency and everything that I do is that you're going to die. So what's the point of spending time doing things that don't matter, doing things that don't mean anything to you? What's the point of wanting to do something but not doing it? What's the point of having a dream but not attempting it? Right? When my grandma was on her deathbed, she said, Adrian, I know before I got to the hospital, I said you were crazy for quitting your job because I just quit my job. She said, but now that I'm dying, I want you to know that if you don't want to go back to work, don't. Like, do your business thing. I know I said it was crazy, but damn, I'm dying. Oh, do your thing. When I heard that, it just deepened it. You know, I was like, all right, like, I'm never going to go and search for a safe life. Like, I'm just going to go and adventure and going to do all the shit that when I'm dying, I'm like, all right, I did a lot. I'm ready for the next one. You know what I mean? So
nice. That's a great takeaway, Adrian. Yeah, do your thing, man. Do your thing. Anybody listening, do it. Whatever you're thinking about now that's holding you back, do it. Whoever you think you are and you're not really that person, take off the mask and do it. Yeah. Really awesome stuff, man. So where can listeners learn about you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna break my cardinal rule here, and Philip knows one of the rules about podcast guesting effectively is only giving one link for the audience to follow, so they can join your list. But I'm gonna give you guys 2 links because I did mention I would give you a recording process where you can use self-hypnosis on yourself. So there's gonna be 2 things. If you want to do self-hypnosis on yourself and you want to kind of learn what that's like and experience what that's like, go to rewiremythoughts.com/unshakable, and Philip will throw that in the show notes. So don't try to remember it right now, but rewiremythoughts.com/unshakable. That'll be in the show notes. The second thing, if you want to learn, like, I know I kind of went over a little bit the podcast thing, but if you want to learn the actual framework that I use, it's a 4-step framework. I go deep into it in this free PDF. Like, you can actually learn how to do it yourself, and you want to have a PDF in front of you instead of like referring back to the show over and over again to take notes. Just go to thepowerpitch.co/PDF. Again, thepowerpitch.co/PDF. And I'll show you how I got booked on a bunch of shows, how Philip's doing it, how everybody else is doing it, so you can do the same. And those will be the only 2 ways I'd say for people to go ahead and get in touch with me. And if you want to follow my socials, I communicate all of that in my email. Like, at the bottom of my emails, I'm like, hey, come follow me here. So other than that, though, that'll be it. Those 2 links.
Awesome. So I'll definitely put those in the show notes for the self-hypnosis video, which I want to check out myself as well. And of course, the free podcast PDF, thepowerpitch.co/PDF. All right, man. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Really, truly, this is one of my favorite interviews so far. And I thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
If you've been inspired by today's interview and are ready to take action and build momentum on your health and fitness journey, just schedule a free 30-minute nutrition momentum call with me using the link in my show notes. I promise not to sell or pitch you on anything, but I will help you gain some perspective and guidance so we can get you on the right track toward looking and feeling your best.